there, it's me, JK. Hello, mentors. Thank you so much for clicking and watching my video again with curiosity and kindness. I'm a lifelong learner, language learner, want to be science coach, and great thinker. This is my learning log channel. I hope I can grow with you, sharing my learning journey with mentors who can give me advice and helps about my curious and impossible questions. Before I move into the next topic, I want to share my reflection about last videos. I noticed that my last video did not quite match with my agenda in my slide. This happened with me for my real classes. I'm an in-person person and have a conflicting feeling toward that. As it happened as it planned, it's somewhat boring or not genuine. I definitely need a help and advice for my psychological conflict. There was no follow-up question as the last part, and I did not explicitly enough summarize contents. Also, there are a few pictures, therefore it looks a bit boring. Thank you for bearing with me the last time. I'm trying to improve this aspect on today's video. I was thinking to make my own curriculum during the summer. Usually when I plan my yearly curriculum for teaching language, I usually start from the idea mapping. I came across that there are the concept called the curriculum mapping out there. It looks like familiar to what I've done, even though I did not develop nor use this term for my process. It seems another interesting topic I might need to study more. Back to my original plan, whenever I work with a student, motivation is always first big hurdle for me to get over. Genuine motivation and big ideas. How do we need to learn this stuff? Why do we need to learn this stuff? Do we really need? What do we need to learn? Besides well-known answers such as we need to get better grade or need to help a student to go to better college, I have a very few vague answers for these questions. I might have some but not have a genuine hurt in these beliefs. So I started to think more about questions. Why am I studying about science? Why do we need to learn? Why do we need to teach? What is the role and the value of science? Why is a question? This is my driving question. I think questions have a strong power. They sometimes shake our beliefs, which was firm ground. There are time-consuming process. There are qualities. Do I really know what the question is and how to use it? While I was studying about this topic, my own driving question, I came across this interesting book. It does not give me a direct teacher version strategies, but was good enough to give me a big picture about questions. What I learned from this book this time, questions require practice, necessity to aim for biggest question. You could channel the energy through the questions. When I did my student teaching, I realized that I struggled to come up with a question that lead more thought and curiosity. I came to conclude 3 reasons for this problem. First, I was not patient enough to wait until students bring out some ideas or answers. We're not skillful enough to deal with the students who show direct frustration toward the questions from me. Second, it is easier to tell them an answer to question because it's more articulating work required to guide the student with the questions. Third, I did not have a big idea to aim for myself. Simply, I did not know what to ask, just like my students. Here are 3 key takeaways from what I have studied so far. I want to give a huge thank to teachythought.com. Terry Heck at teachythought.com had a great ideas. I definitely want to share and admire. I strongly recommend this site because I learned a lot from this site. Do I want to ask? What do I want my student to think about and learning about? What should I aim for? I agree with that question is more powerful, persuasive tool than the counterpart argument as Gregerson said. I know we educators all need to high expectation to our students, but not all my students would be a scientist, doctor, and engineer. Some might want to be a singer-songwriter, some might want to be a carpenter, some might want to be a cook, something else. Not that I meant these jobs are less important. It's just less likely to require science credit from college or so, but they need to learn and use science for everyday life. Those peoples are us. What do I want my student to recall 40 days, 40 months, and 40 years from now? These rules give me more clear direction for me to think about what I should aim and how I can connect their interest to the science. Here are the list of characters in essential questions that I found from the choke.com. Essential questions are open-ended, thought-provoking, require higher-order thinking, develop transferable ideas, spark additional questions, use support justification, and evolve with time. Great, all right? For example, what is the science? It's open-ended, thought-provoking, require higher-order thinking. I start to check my question with this list. When I try to apply this character to generate a essential question, it feels harder than it looks. I see the necessity to make the list of my own essential question now. Here are my humble essential questions I worked on. I worry that my question might overwhelm or sounds too wishy-washy to administrator or the parents. Also, I might need to use various strategies to implement this question to ask students. For example, I might set up the daily routine at the beginning or ending of the unit or semester. It takes time and efforts, but I do believe it is worth it to ask myself a question to think together and aim for it. You might want to pause to see the list of questions and resources. I add more the example question I found out from the sample open school site. These are more specific question example might fit into NGSS standard subcategories. I might have a misconception essential questions should be somewhat related to the nature of science because this question looks more direct and specific than I come up with. So how can I ask questions? I learned that it is better to know different types of questions, not because one is better than the other, but because it has own purpose and function. Hook questions serve the function to grab students' attention. That's for starting the new unit. Leading question function as a hint. You lead the student to the certain information. For example, what the symbol for the sodium? Guiding question guides student to higher order thinking. Is there any other system we can see homeostasis besides human body? This chart looks interesting to me because it shows the inquiry process with questions. It was not easy as I thought because I have a tendency to give a student a direct information, the direct answer instead of a question. I anticipate this strategy improves students' critical thinking, metacognition, and engagement. I want to focus on patterns of these questions. I can see the arrow circulating between columns using questions. Two things I was hooked was that collect many questions as much as you can without stopping for any reason and prioritize the questions. One of the teachers I met did similar activity in her class. The conversation between students became more dense than usual. I got this cool illustration from Edutopia. The lesson from this illustration is that questions deserve the main actor on the stage. Questions are worth it to track it, elaborate, make it as a routine, and to reward. Here are the more resources you can tap into about questions. Quick recap. Questions are high stakes work to elaborate and practice, but worth it to use it because it motivates and engages students. Following 40-40-40 rules, essential questions would be open-ended, practical, but aiming for big reasons. Practice the questions, so start from scratch as much as you can, prioritize, revisit, reflect, collect. Here is the question for you. Could you please comment down below what if the questions are not related to what you try to teach, or it takes up too much time, or it is too big, like to cover in like short amount of classroom time. How would you deal with it? Like not discouraging but still respecting and rewarding students' curiosity. Do you have any strategies or ideas about questions? I would love to hear from you, mentor. Since we are at the stage of the beginning of the school year, I might come back with how I want to start my classes. Thank you so much watching my video again. See you next time.